What up, YouTube? You already know Big Lou tapping back in, but what it do? The Big Lou NFCR2, baby. First time you coming to the channel, as usual, it'd be highly appreciated if you sub, like, and share the channel with your family, friends, folks, peoples, gente, comrades, associates, buddies, pals, amigos, amicos, and I'll also feel free to comment, and I'll respond back to all the comments. And that goes for questions. If you got any questions for me, anything to add on, anything to criticize what I said, anything to play devil advocate against what I said, anything, feel free to put it there. So this is just a little story. This is like the third time I'm doing this video. Again, like I mentioned in another video and yesterday on the live, I had issues with the phone, with holding data and stuff like that. But I think I figured it out. Shouts out to Shanka Woodco again. He led me in the right direction, so I appreciate you, guy. And so yeah, this video is about how when I was a youngster growing up in the early '90s, up to mid '90s, I had family members that were involved in the trade, right? You know what I mean, right? You got to be careful what you say sometimes. Anyways, back then it was known as Go Fast, Crank, what was something else they called it back then? Hale. No, not Hale, excuse me. They used to call it water. Agua. They used to call it agua. Nowadays they call it Scante, Cryz, and all kinds of different things. It's totally different looking. It doesn't look nothing the same. Back then it had a potent smell to it, like you can smell the chemicals. Now it's like shards and there's like crystal rocks and that type of stuff. Anyways, so back in the day, a lot of people used to, that up the nose, smoking a little bit out of like off of light bulbs. They used to break light bulbs and smoke it off that with a tutor. Also, some people used to inject it, and then some people would smoke it on foil. I seen some of that when I was youngster. I mean, real young. And then it seemed like the people back then, even though the stuff back then was a lot stronger and a lot better, a lot of people would call it too, more in the white boy circle, it would be considered the kind, or that bathtub type stuff. A lot of people would associate it with bikers, right? And like I said, they call it bathtub dope. And the kind and stuff like that. I used to hear those type of things too from people. A lot of people used to call it too back in the day. They would call it queer juice, right? And a lot of people would be like, "What queer juice?" And the reason why it was called that was because you didn't necessarily have to do queer, gay type of things, homosexual activities, even though a lot of guys did. A lot of people did, but it would also reference like just doing weird things. You know what I'm saying? Sexual things, whatever that might be, whatever floats your boat. People know what I'm talking about. I know people are in denial, just like back in the day, some of the real gangsters from the prison gang organizations back in the 70s, they want to act like they did. A lot of them didn't indulge in homosexual activity, which they did. You know what I'm saying? They used to have their own punks. They used to march around and take them around to visit cats in their own cell, and I'm not even going to say the name because I know a lot of people wouldn't want to hear it, like to be associated with that. But there's a legendary guy that's from Central Valley. He's passed away now, and he had a big influence on a way a lot of the way a lot of the things unfolded, right? As far as the history of the organization and stuff like that. Anyways, he was the head of security in Tracy, and he used to take around this motherfucker named Disco Dan, and he used to go and try and take him to each cell and leave and drop him off and let him hang out with the person that lived in that cell. I know this for a fact. I've heard it numerous times over from OGs from the 70s, right? A few of them's passed now, but they all admitted it. Not admitted that they did something with the guy, but admitted that was going on. So that's why this stuff's called queer juice, right? People would just act funny, weird. They would just do weird things, not to mention, the movement of the jaw and the noodle grooving and all that stuff, where they can't stay still. You know what I mean? Just the culture of it changed, man. Now, I just think the people back then, from what I can remember, yeah, there was cases here and there of cats that couldn't hold their own, where they would act strange, people hearing voices, things like that, and other things. But it seems like now it's more rampant. It's more, because, back then, they were able to get like the Sudafed pills, and they would be able to extract the Sudafed, whatever the ingredient, the ingredient that was in the allergy pills, they were able to extract it out and use it in their, in their cooking of their stuff. Now with the government putting all the restrictions on that, it's and other chemicals, it's hard for them to get things. So now they're all using alternative measures, and other things they're using to replace those things. And I've heard over the years, I've heard battery acid, I've heard Raid they use, I've heard a few different other things that you just imagine what it does to somebody's body. So I said all that to say this. So basically, what I'm saying is most of the people I remember from back in the '90s, they were all pretty, they were still people. Some people were still working. They were able to function and work as addicts on crank. You know what I mean? Of course, they would every now and then get tired where they have to call in sick or miss because they just needed the rest, right? But now, now, and what I mean by now is dating back like the last 15 years or so. You know, um, you'll see guys in their early 20s, or even girls in their early 20s, mid 20s, man, and their teeth are already all messed up, missing, or broke. Uh, some of the dudes, their hair is like this part's all the way back here, and then they're bald up here too. At 22 years old, is it really hereditary? Is it more, or could it be a mixture of genes and the chemicals you're putting in your body? You know what I'm saying? Which I believe is it's more of the chemicals at that age. I don't believe it happens too often where guys go bald headed at 22, 23 years old. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's happened, but not like what you see. And I could come from a place to have a lot of experience to speak on this because I've done a lot of time in jail, in prison, and in jail is when you see the people first come in. So you see how tore up they are. And a lot of times you won't even realize and remember how people looked when they came in until you happen to glance at their ID. And then you were like, damn, I don't even remember you looking like that. And they'll just look like walking death. You know what I mean? Hella skinny, cheekbones protruding out of their face, whatever. They smelled bad. You remember all that. But then you don't really remember it until you happen to, like I said, glance at their ID. And then you're like, oh, shit, I remember that now because you guys been there together for 3-4 months or whatever it was. So, I'm coming from a place of experience and I know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? So, anyways, that's just a little story about how in the past 30 years things have changed with that certain substance, and how it's became more addictive, but it's not as strong. That's the weird part about it. It's not as potent as back then in the early 90s, definitely not the 80s, because like I said, back then you were able to get the ingredients needed for this, you know what I mean? And now it's like, the government's put all kinds of restrictions on, getting things. Like before, you can have somebody go in there and they could buy 10, 15 boxes of Sudafed or any other type of allergy medication, and then just pay for it and go out now. And then it changed to like you had to show your ID, and then it changed to you can only get like one per customer or two per customer, something like that. But on top of that, like I mentioned already earlier, that they also put different restrictions on other chemicals. I don't know the names of those, and I really don't know what they're about or what they're needed for, but other than they're needed for ingredients in that making that stuff. You know what I mean? But that's just another quick little video I wanted to drop. Heading on back over to the park. We already got all set up, doing a little thing for the kids today. We got all kinds of things over there we bought, and that's just us, our little area. Me and my wife and my two little daughters. We bought a bunch of muffins, cookies. We brought donuts from the donut shop, 3 dozens of donuts. We got Capri Suns. We got waters. We got all kinds of things for the kids. So with that being said, Big Lou tapping on out. I'll probably drop some shorts a little bit about over there. All right. Thanks for coming in, peoples.